darkest roads and up in the clouds, but I've always felt that something's missing. That was until I found you right there in the crowd. You came into my life and started a fire. You made me feel like I could touch the sky. Oh, there's nothing missing now that you're my desire. Now all I have to do is to make you mine. 'Cause I know, and you know what we could be. Like a song, like a perfect melody. Baby, don't say you don't believe in me. 'Cause you know, and I know, we're onto something good. You know, and I know, we got something good.
And welcome everybody, it's Dan Latto speaking. Welcome to the Mindset and Hustle show, and with me I have Jonnie Jensen. Welcome Jonnie, how are you doing?
Good, Dan, good to be here. Many times we've chatted, but never live together.
And I always think that our stuff is golden, and then it's like there's plenty of people who could listen into our conversation and go, that's genius, I should implement that myself. And then I'm like, you know what we need to do? We need to get Jonnie on and we need to go live. We need to talk about mindset and men's mindset and women's mindset as well. But I think we need to delve more into that, because I think together we can probably come up with quite a lot of decent stuff, really.
Exactly. And it's a Friday, so it's a nice way to have a bit of a hangout to end the week. I'm sure, let's reassure people that it's not all going to be serious, heavy chat. This is really about the reality of everyday life, and then hacking it or leveling up, so that every moment we approach things, there's a flow to it. It goes in our favor. And too many people wander around expecting the exact worst, which is just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually find these conversations really cathartic. So when I do a podcast, it's not about anybody else, just about me. I need to get this off my chest, right? And I'm like, well, if I find that useful and I feel like that, I'm sure other people must feel like that as well.
100%. By the way, everyone keeps saying 100% at the moment. I don't know why it is. Two of my clients keep saying to me 100% is the answer to their questions. Watching I'm a Celebrity in the Jungle right now. All saying 100%. I don't know who started it. I'm not even sure I quite like it. And guess what? I'm now bloody doing it 100%.
Well, I can 105% guarantee I won't be doing that. So let's crack on with some men's health stuff in particular, because I think obviously it's the 1st of December. Last month was International Men's Health Day. And I'm like, is it though? And I'm quite negative about special days for special things, because I'm like, it should be International Men's Health Month every month, and it isn't, because I think we get a bad pot at being men. And I think there's this term of toxic masculinity, which I really hate, because I never hear toxic femininity. And it's always men, and men who are aggressive. And it's like, well, it's not that they're toxic, it's just that they're aggressive. It's not that the guy made the wrong decision and therefore he's toxic. He's just made a bad decision at some point in his life. And I kind of don't like that terminology. I don't know what you think about that.
I hate that phrase. It's a really easy label to throw around, and it gets wielded now quite recklessly. And just as you say, you don't talk about like dangerous dogs as all dogs. You talk about these, what they called XL
bullies.
So you talk about that dog. Now, if someone's an asshole, they're an asshole.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether they've got a pair of balls or a fanny.
Yeah.
Like, that is a toxic person.
Yeah.
So when you just get a paintbrush out and go, poof, toxic masculinity, it doesn't leave any space for normal behavior or using a bit of, even the word aggression gets a bit awkward now, but being direct, being stern, taking a lead in the situation and saying, hang on a minute, no. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't, I needed you to do this and I needed you to do that. I mean, we don't want to make this all about a men's show, but, mansplaining as well. Like, I think there may have been a time for some of these phrases.
Yeah.
And if that was my history and sociological sort of studies, I can't tell you decade by decade, but the historical view of man goes to work, goes out for beers with his mates on the way home, gets in, expects dinner, rubs the kid on the head, pats him off to bed, wants a shag, and if he doesn't get one, he's going to scream at his wife, go to sleep, repeat. Like that, like some point in time that may have been valid, but not today in 2023.
Yeah.
And when TV is movies are getting whitewashed, all role gender sort of roles are getting tipped upside down. If that's that important, then the idea that certain women can go around saying you're toxic, that's mansplaining, that you couldn't do it the other way around. Like a man can't go, you're a fucking sorry, I don't know what we're doing. Sorry. You're a bitch. Like you can't just walk in here and start bossing people around. I have had some nightmare women bosses. Now I worked in marketing agencies, but I've had some amazing women bosses. I've had some amazing men bosses. I've had some complete nightmare men bosses. It's really weird to just mush it all into one tiny pot and say, you lot are like this.
Yeah. And it's not true at all. It's just that person is that type of person, and that's it. I do get that men can be more aggressive because that's who we are. And that's, from an evolutionary point of view, that's who we've had to be in order to go out, kill the woolly mammoth, bring it back, feed the tribe and that kind of thing. And it's like, we think about civilization. Well, how long's civilization been going? 200 years? I mean, you might say 2,000 years, and yeah, okay. But 1800s was still slavery and floggings, and so really proper civilization. And you could even say, even now, are we truly civilized with some of the stuff that you see on social media? And I don't necessarily think that we are. And yet we have these arbitrary rules that are placed upon us, but now we're supposed to act like this. And some of these rules have been placed on us in the last 6 months or last 12 months. And this is how a man's supposed to be, and you're not supposed to do that, and you're not supposed to do this, and you're supposed to be. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And it's almost like an impossible level that you're supposed to aspire to be. And a lot of men are just trying to put food on a table, be a good dad, which is difficult given certain set of circumstances. Sometimes it's not, but a lot of time it is difficult. Be a good husband, go to work, put food on the table. That's it. That is literally the life that they aspire to be. And I think that's quite difficult in today's world, because you say something slightly wrong, or just something that's not quite PC, let's say, and then that's it. And this whole cancel culture then kicks in. Like stuff, I saw something, it was like a guy from 30 or 40 years ago, and he said something that wasn't appropriate, like in 2023. And we're trying to cancel him. Like, dude, this guy's been dead 25 years. He doesn't care. But the cancellation period is there.
I know. And you can argue both sides of the coin if you want to in certain situations. Pat Sharp, remember the guy that did Funhouse?
Yeah.
He got cancelled, basically. He was doing, I just saw this on the internet a few weeks ago. It's been about 5 years or something. A woman, he was doing an event, and a woman in the crowd won a contest, whatever the thing might have been, right? She comes up on stage and he gives her a Pat Sharp t-shirt, right? And he said, now you've got me on your tits, right?
Which is, I still find that funny in 2023. Is that a bit inappropriate?
There's a level to which some people, if the context, and the way it was delivered,
yeah.
And I'm not a woman, so it's a woman could say something very different in this same conversation. But I've also heard my girlfriend's views on this and some other women's views on this. They're of the opinion that is quite funny. Now that my girlfriend in particular and her mates would have given the banter back.
Yeah.
The woman who this incident had happened went on social media afterwards and talked about the mental health and the trauma and how it was the worst thing that ever happened in her life. And that to me is the part where we're really talking about resilience, and we're asking what the hell is going on in the world when we can't engage and interact like that without the simplest of comments suddenly destroying our whole life.
Mm.
And that incident and I wasn't there. I don't know the woman, so if she's had a struggle, then every respect to her. But they were at some sort of festival, some sort of party, you know. And if it's Pat Sharp there, it's not a bunch of kids in the. Maybe it was. I don't know. But again, there's context to it all, and
context changes over time, doesn't it? Contextualization of what happened 20, 30 years ago is vastly different to doing something similar today.
Imagine the Life of Brian. I mean, there was a big uproar about Life of Brian when it was made. Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Blazing Saddles is such a, if you want it to be, such a powerful commentary on racism and attitudes towards different people.
Yeah.
And it's bloody funny.
It is really funny, but I think the
handshake.
I think the problem is, though, is for men is like, so you've got these levels to where you should be, and the levels change up and down, and then actually knowing where you should fit into those levels, because it changes, that can be quite hard. So I think that can be quite difficult for guys as they're going forward, because like I say, if they're going to work, they're coming home, they're seeing the wife, they go out at weekends with the mates, which is, I think, a necessary requirement for all people, both sexes, or not both sexes, all genders, I should say. And I think that's important. But I think it's really hard sometimes for a guy to know where he should sit. And, oh, I'm not supposed to say that. You know, certainly some terms that we used a long time ago. So, like, especially from a race point of view, for example, some of those terminologies which were deemed okay. I mean, I must admit, though, you can go to extremes. You look at Jim Davidson, and I'm like, when was he ever funny? You know, as I look back at his stuff, but maybe my context has changed compared to what he was doing 30, 40 years ago. I just don't know. And I don't know where that level is anymore.
I think there's a level of self-awareness that has to be adopted by all of us. And the stuff that went on with the cricket players and, you know, is jokes about alcohol to a Muslim person, is that funny? And is there any space for that person to sit there and laugh and be involved in it? And do they have to just smile and like, oh, that's really funny? Actually, inside they're deeply offended. And, you know, there's a level of self-awareness, even cultural awareness, that we all have to adopt. But then and the flip side of that is choosing to be offended at the slightest thing. And I think that some men have been guilty of a lack of self-awareness and a lack of cultural awareness.
Yeah.
And that has created this situation that we're in. But now as we've evolved, and it's particularly important for young people, that my boy is not growing up thinking black people are a lesser person or women are a lesser person, and yet their whole perspective on what they're being taught at school and what they're being shown on TV and how the gender balance is being swung really far, but not to the middle, but really far back the other way. They don't have the historical context. So they're young boys growing up really confused about what they're being told, because inside themselves, they're man. Yeah. Outside of whatever gender people choose to be and all that sort of stuff. But in the main, this is also very important. We've got to talk to the majority of people and not just always the minorities, which minority groups would say, hang on a minute, that's a bit flipping ironic. Yeah. But this is a reference to my boy in school saying to me, why don't they talk to us about stuff that's relevant to me? Why do I keep getting told about gay people and LGBTQ and what I can and can't do to women? There's no lesson that says, do you know what? Being a man is like this. You're going to have feelings like this. You're going to be attracted to this. You're going to see a woman in a bikini and you're going to be like, whoa. Now, you can't tell them that's wrong, because if you tell them that's wrong and don't leave them with an alternative, they're naturally going to think that. So that's the reason I'm sharing that, is it's very easy to frame that in the context of a young teenager who needs to be explained, actually being a strong, confident, virile man in the right way is essential. Yeah. That's your natural essence coming out.
I think does that also depend on parenting to some extent? Because I was having a conversation with someone just last week, and he looks after his son, and we're having this conversation around masculine and feminine energy, and he's quite a masculine guy, and therefore his son is also a masculine guy. And I said to the guy, I'm like, are you dating? And he's like, no, I'm not dating. And he's a straight guy. So I'm like, okay, so you need to really introduce a feminine energy, not only to his life, but also to his son's life, so that he can get some kind of balance. And I think that means the kids about 12 or 13, that would enable them to be more well-rounded. And what you said is resonant for me as well. A strong, virile guy. Like, you know, if you said, Dan, could you kill someone? I'd be like, yeah, of course I could. If my family's life depended on it, easy, right? I've got that capacity. I'm 100% sure of it. I have that capacity. But because I choose not to go around murdering people, that's a choice. That's much better than being in a position where I haven't got that capability. And we all should be able to defend ourselves. We all should be strong, powerful guys. But we also choose not to utilize that because we've got a better method of, you know, we negotiate our way out of a fight or out of trouble, or, you know, if we get into predicaments and so on. And I think that's vitally important. But I think what society is telling people, men today, is no, you shouldn't be aggressive. You shouldn't have that capacity. And I'm like, of course you should. We're still cavemen, just with clothes on, really, you know, and these artificial structures which change every decade or so as to who we should be and how we should behave. And I agree that as we move forward, our behavior can improve, and it should improve, but we should still have that capacity to be a threat if needs, you know, the need arises.
Yeah. And I'm very well read on this subject. I'm not pretending to be an expert, but, you know, in my coaching work with men, it's important that I'm aware of this. So I've now read, I've got like 160 odd books in my Audible, so listen to.
Nice.
But that's over 10 years, like I did it last week. But starting to understand, No More Mr. Nice Guy is a wonderful book about how men behave in relationships, and how when we give too much and do too much, and we're all there for the people in our life, in particular the partner, the woman in our life, she loses a sense of respect and attraction.
Yeah,
because they need to see us. Let's just say they and need to. Okay, you could do what you like and don't. But if we go back to that primate kind of animal instinct, a woman wants a strong man that's going to protect her and her children. That is the essence. Again, I'm taking this from books I've read. And so in a relationship, if a man keeps giving and doing too much and always being there and trying to fix and trying to, can I do anything? And the expectation probably is that it's going to make their life happier, that they're going to get some sex. Actually, the attraction starts to wane from that relationship, because there is no animal instinct. There's no and competition anxiety about the idea that, oh, if I don't keep this man, he's going to go off somewhere else. So
yeah.
There has to be an awareness of all these things, and to simply throw history out the way, or to throw studies out the window is very damaging to the world we live in. An interesting point about all this, though, is self-awareness, and we touched on this before we went live, and we're on the Mindset and Hustle show. People being really tuned in to who they are, their strengths, their weaknesses, what they like doing, also values, really important. This goes for both men and women. If you're going through life being pulled in different directions, and those directions aren't congruent with where you see yourself headed and the life you see yourself creating and the values you see yourself honoring, then it's like getting slapped in the face with a wet fish, Monty Python style, you know? There's only so many times before you're like, why'd you keep hitting me with that thing? But we don't say it like that, because we just get up and experience this life that we've wandered into without realizing. And a huge part of confidence and mindset and being driven in the work that we do, being driven in our relationships, is always being grounded in, was this the plan that I had? Is it part of who I am? Like when I look at myself in the mirror, am I buzzed about what I'm doing and who I'm being? And it's not just the damage of not doing that. So many people are so busy that they've got no idea. They might not even ever have sat down and thought about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when you're coaching people in the business, you ask them similar questions.
Well, I'm always like, well, who do you want to be, first of all? Because, like you say, most people actually don't know. They've never actually sat down and wrote down what they want to be, and they think that life happens to them, and they are just the way they are because life's happened to them. And so we call that living in effect, whereas I always try and live at cause, sometimes successful, sometimes not, but I choose how I want my life to look and how I want to feel on a daily basis. So then knowing how I want that to look and feel and sound and taste and smell and how I want that to look, then I can go put those things in place so that I actually get that. And I think that on the journey through adolescence to in your 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s, I mean, maybe it's a 50s thing. Now I'm 50, 51. I'm like, yeah, I totally know who I am, who I want to be. And it's easier for me to change my life and to be more like that. Whereas when you're 20, 30 and 40, maybe not 40 as much, but 20 and 30s, you think that everyone else has got the answers. And so you try and be like everybody else, only to realize when you turn 50, shit, no one's got the bloody answers. You have to make up your own answers for how you want your life to look. And I think that's really difficult for a lot of guys.
Yeah. But the knowledge is out there.
Yeah, it is.
Funny though, I said to my dad, just said to me, my dad and I talk quite a bit now. And he
how old's your dad?
He's 80. He's 80.
Okay.
I'm 49.
Right.
So he's always been a maverick. He's 100 miles an hour, makes magic happen. He's been loaded. He's been utterly skinned and plenty of time in the middle. And I'm losing track of what I was saying. So he said to me, I'm just not sure you're having enough fun, son. And like that is his sort of baseline, his barometer of where his life is at. And look back on that. Like, so that's one of his core values. It's like, doesn't matter whether I've got loads of money or not got loads of money. I'm always going to be having people around for dinner and we're always going to be having a good time. So he gets to be constant no matter what the circumstances are. When you can be like that, and if you take a bit of a matrix kind of step out of the up to coal face, the tightness of your life, we're on this planet 80 years, 90 years. It's naturally going to go up and down. So if you can be constant all the way through, this is what I do. Is having fun. Are we helping other people? Like, are we doing stuff? Then the likelihood is that if you have a tough one, you're probably going to have a good one. Light follows day. Tide goes in, tide goes out. That's the force that was at play in this universe that we live in, whether you're into God or not into God. Like, we are blessed with all this stuff. I
think there's a tendency, though, like a self-worthiness tendency, which sounds like this. Well, I'm not successful, or I've not done this very well, or I only get to see my kids alternate weekends, or I've not got the 100 grand a year job, I'm only doing 25 grand a year. And therefore, because of that, I don't deserve fun. And I think that's a very dangerous mindset to have, because everybody's entitled to fun. If you're at home, lazy as anything, unemployed, smoking weed all day, you're still entitled to fun. You're still a human being entitled to all the things that other human beings are entitled to. And if you're not on the 100 grand, well, why are you not entitled to fun? Why are you not entitled to go traveling to, I just got back from Bali. So Bali's a good example, or Switzerland or Berlin. I was just pricing up Brussels. It's like £44 return for a weekend in Brussels. I'm like, oh, maybe I could do that. But it's like where you're saying, well, I've not got this level of success, and therefore I shouldn't be allowed to go do that. I shouldn't be allowed to go to keep fit or CrossFit or running. And I think it's not conducive to a positive mental well-being whatsoever. And actually, just to finish up on that, for me, it's like as soon as you go and have fun, you come up with all these wonderful ideas in your business and in your oh shit, maybe I should actually go do that. And so you then go do that, and the fun is the reason why that's actually improved. But because you're denying it, you never get to that point.
Absolutely. You just touched on about 4 different points there, right?
Yeah.
having that balance across our life is absolutely vital. In my coaching, it's called the FIRE code: focus, impact, relationships, and energy. The focus is on yourself. The impact is business, money, and community. The relationships, wife, partner, children, family, friend, mentors, and network, like Diamond Alliance, not being a lone wolf. And then the energy part: fun, adventure, and peace. Now, if anybody's listening to this, you can rewind a little bit and write that out. But if you've got, I don't know, like the old graphic equalizers on your old stereo, if you banged up the treble on one end and dropped the bass at the other one right down to the bottom, it would sound crap. And that's a really literal random example. But when things are out askew like that, it doesn't sound right. And if we're not having enough fun in our life, or if we're not putting quality time into our children, or if we're spending too much time in work or not enough time in work, like, if there's not a level across the board where you're saying this machine called me needs all these things to be working in order for me to hit the high performance and to hit the lifestyle and hit the fulfillment that I desire. And so the secrets of success aren't really that secret. When you flip open the bonnet of someone's life and say, well, look what you're doing. Like, your relationship is screwed, which is making you stressed out when you're at work, which means when you get home, you haven't really got the mindset to be with your kids. And there's no way you're getting up and going to the gym. And by the way, you're stressed out, not having any sex and sleeping bad. So that's kind of dramatic, but anyone listening, they'll be able to say, oh, actually, I had a couple of those.
So what would be in that list of things? So you mentioned sex, sleep, relationships.
Yeah.
What else? So we've got 3 there.
Sex, sleep, relationships.
Yeah.
Exercise, sleep, and diet. Then there's the internal peace. So are you know, people get weird when I talk about journaling and meditation, right? But the reality is, if you're getting stuff out of your brain and being able to put it to one side, the brain has more space to go off and do other stuff. So the practice of meditation, some people just go for a walk, other people just like to lay down, whatever the version is, but are you giving yourself time out? So that's an important part of it. And then the relationship side, lots of couples, especially the men, they're so busy, they end up putting all their relationship needs on their wife. Well, guess what? First of all, she doesn't want to be those things. And second of all, she's probably not good at them all. Why does she be your mentor, counselor, partner, buddy? it's
So
too much.
This is also then about balance inside relationships. So you have a relationship with your wife or husband or whoever, a relationship with your children and your parents and possibly siblings. Then you've got, like, you know, a group of guys, drinking buddies, Friday night, 6 till 8 down at the pub. And then you might have coffee with someone.
Well, that's your network. So your sort of business network. Then you've got your mentors, so people you're learning from.
Yeah. So in my life, one of the things I've definitely missed, because obviously I live in Spain, so I'm 1,000 miles away from all my old friends. And so making new friends was very, very difficult for me because they're all Spanish, right? So, and my Spanish is dreadful. And then you kind of meet more English people and you latch onto them, and then they become your kind of network. And then you're slowly expanding it. And then as soon as I went to CrossFit, that you know, for 8 or 9 years, I kind of felt a bit lonely, really, because, I'd speak to people like this, but that's not the same as high-fiving someone and calling someone a wanker, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the same. Or eating cheesecake and having a second helping, you know, because why not? It's Friday morning, which I did last week. And don't tell the wife. So, but that was missing. And as soon as I go to CrossFit, you then have all these relationships now coming in of people, different genders, different ages, different experiences, different locations, people from overseas, Poland and Spain and wherever else. And then suddenly my life balance for that particular bit came into balance, where it was very, very unbalanced, and it made me very happy. And really, that's just one big piece of my life, you know. So imagine that's out of balance, and then you've got your health out of balance, and then your sleep, which is kind of connected to health, but that's out of balance, and then your work's out of balance. No wonder people are feeling lost. And the more guys, especially as we're turning 45 and onwards, and certainly even 35 plus, they're feeling, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am anymore, Dan. This is the problem. I hear it all the time.
Absolutely. And the answers are actually pretty simple.
Yeah. And
the thing is, as educated humans, we've got this technology all around us. We think the answer must be a lot more. It can't be that simple.
Yeah.
But if you're not seeing your friends, or if you haven't got any friends, it's going to impact you across the board. Oh yeah, but you don't know what it's like. No, I'm not having that. Like, if you live on Antarctica and there's only 8 of you in a flipping hut for 6 months, you know, you'll be forced to have fun, or you're going to have a really, really bad time. Yeah. And yet people live in a city. I was chatting to a guy the other week, lives in Brighton, and he's trying to explain to me how he's lonely. And I'm saying, I'm not going to dismiss your experience of being lonely, but I am going to challenge you on what you're doing about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've tried that. I was like, either you're showing up as the wrong person in those environments, like expecting to have a best mate by the end of half an hour, or you just haven't been to enough of them.
Mm.
So,
or even you haven't yet got the social skills to make a connection. And then it's like, well, what books have you read on learning social skills? What YouTube videos what training have you been on? And it's just, I said something last week in a podcast interview, and it was, once you strip away all the excuses, all you've got left is the action. That's it.
Absolutely.
So strip away all that.
100%.
100%, absolutely. 199.9%. So
Wayne Dyer's books. Wayne Dyer, I love Wayne Dyer, right? Excuses Be Gone. Brilliant book. And it's just, the title says it all, but it's like, excuses be gone. If you took that excuse out the way, what would you be left with?
Yeah.
And we have to challenge ourselves in those ways. Personal development, personal growth, self-awareness. It's not something really taught in schools. Going back to that point, it's not something that all men will actually naturally gravitate towards. I said to a guy the other day about meditation. He said, "Oh no, I'm really into that." I said, "So what? You never take time for just yourself to chill out and like gather your thoughts?" He said, "Oh no, I quite often go for a 10-minute lie down."
He's labelled it as woo woo.
Okay, that one we're sticking with. And this idea that, you know, personal growth and self-awareness is something that that's not for me. If you don't tune the machine, if you don't evolve, if you don't look at it and go, well, what is the missing link here? You might have been thinking to yourself, well, I'm obviously just a shit northern bloke, right? It wasn't, or I shouldn't have come from Spain. No, you just hadn't gone and found a tribe that literally, you opened the door, the music was on, there was a bunch of people working out and having a laugh and taking the piss out of each other, and just boom, you were straight in. And that's what everybody has to find. Going back to the being out of the habit though, if you haven't spoken to anyone for much, if you're not connected with who you are and what you like doing, how the hell do you hope to, even if you wandered into the right place, to be able to go, oh, hello guys.
Yeah.
And be self-aware enough to say, actually, I've been on a bit of a downer for the last 8 months. I'm probably a bit out of practice of chatting. I need to see this through. How many other like touch points have I got here? Oh, I like keeping fit. I want to do it with a group of people. I want to do it where there's some music on. I want to do, like, okay, so 4 out of 5 of these points are ticked. It's probably me. If I stick with it, then I'm going to grow. I'm not going to naturally evolve into this. And it's amazing how many men just get tunnel visioned. And I did it myself, actually, in my marriage. I was like, if I can get her better, if I can make the business work, if I can be there for enough of the kids, then everything else will be okay. And what I didn't realize was that my energy, my resilience, my strength was crumbling. And I shouldered so much without putting enough back on me, because how could I give time to myself when I was doing all this other important stuff for everybody else? Because I'm the dad, I'm the man, I've got to do that. And women do this as well. I've got to manage the home. He needs to come home for this. I've got to be there. I've got to go to work. Women do it as well. When my brother killed himself, I had nothing left. So although to the outside world, it didn't take me out, my marriage was over within 6 months, you know, and it actually took me 18 months to rebuild myself and get my life back on track, which is, you know, quite a part of my motivation for my work now. But we have, as I always say, if you're searching in Google for "Am I burnt out?" the answer is definitely yes. and if you find yourself driving along going, I can't do this anymore, I've had enough of this, this is ridiculous, how, what, you know, rather than just dismiss that as, oh, sorry, I've got to carry on, actually go and get yourself a coffee or book yourself an Airbnb for the weekend and just start to write out, well, actually, what does it look like? What do I want to create? Who am I? So that all these things get answered.
In Bali, which was a month ago, actually, I landed there a month ago, and it was for 7 days, and the whole thing, I mean, it's amazing, right? But you basically fly almost for 24 hours, travel for 24 hours to go sit in a seminar room from 9:30 till 7:30, 7 days a week, right? And that's what we did. And it was amazing. Even though you're in this amazing place, we're still inside a seminar room, right? But the whole concept is the writing that we do, a lot of writing. And it's so cathartic, and it's, you know, so if you say, oh, I'm a loser, right, let's work with that. I'm a loser, never amount to anything. So you answer these 4 questions, and for something to be true, it has to be true in all 4 quadrants. It's an NLP process. And through the writing, you just answer all 4 questions, usually a couple of pages on each one, might take an hour. And you get to the end of it and you're like, fucking hell, I'm amazing. Shit. And you just forgot, right? That's for meditation, but it has to be guided to some extent. The guy going for a lie down for 10 minutes, great. But if he's just lying down thinking about how bad his life is, it's usually the same thought pattern over and over and over again, right? It needs to be guided in some way. And again, most men, first of all, I'm not doing that. That's not for me. You know, big butch men, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm off to football. It doesn't help them. And these are the guys, obviously, and it's not just them, but these are the guys most at risk because they're not in touch with their feminine side, but not in touch with their lighter side, shall we say, or to the key word for me is self-awareness. Self-awareness in your relationship, self-awareness in your fitness. Talking to someone yesterday, Pete, sorry about this. You're a good guy, but you need to lose some weight, mate, because you're going to die in the next 10 years. So we're talking about CrossFit and so on, and I'm really pushing him to go do it, right? Because I care about him and I want him to do well. I don't want him dead in 10 years. I want him to live his life of his dreams, like everybody. And so we're talking around CrossFit, and the hardest bit for him is to walk in that door. Everything else is really easy. It's just walking in and being looked at. Well, yeah, you do need to come to CrossFit and let's start, you know. And not even that the people are judging, because there's all shapes and sizes. There's people in CrossFit who look huge and they're just power lifters and the strongest bloke in the gym, right? So having that self-awareness for you to go, okay, this is my problem. These are the possible solutions. Let's go A, B, C, D. Let's go work my way through them, see which one works. And that's it. It can be as simple as that, I think, because on the journey, it's something called procession. So if you're going from A to B, along that journey, when most people just stay at home at A and wonder why life's so bad, the other people going to point B, point C, D, E, F, and G all pop up. They go, oh, maybe that's my purpose. And so they meander through, and eventually they get to where they want to get to. But the guys who are just at point A and go, oh no, I'll take action when I know what the action is, you'll never know what it is.
Oh my gosh. Classic book, super quick read, Who Moved My Cheese?
Right.
It's absolutely gold. It's proper old as well now.
I've never even read that book.
Oh, there's for anyone listening, there's stuff on YouTube. You don't have to buy it, but it's a super thin read. It's almost like a kid's book, basically.
Yeah.
And the 2 mice are used to going and getting their cheese from the same place. One day the cheese is there, and so one mice says, oh well, I'll just come back tomorrow. It'll be here eventually. The other mouse goes, sod this, I'm going to go and find some more cheese. And the story is that simple. And then there's these 2 guys who kind of the story crosses over and it relates to them. But if you take it on that basic premise, go back to the same place, hope there's some cheese there, none. Okay, well, I'll just sit here and wait, or I'll come back tomorrow. Slowly but surely grinding you down, losing energy, the joy of life, the doubt, the frustration, even the resentment. Who fucking took my cheese? This is outrageous. Did you do it or did yeah. People do that to their partner. I was resentful to my partner because she was not that she was ill, but she didn't want to get better in the way that I thought she should get better.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I loved her, not because I wanted to, you know. And we'll all do that in our relationships. And sex is a classic one of where that resentment sits in. But what did you do to evolve it? What did you do to change it? What did you do that was different to what you'd been doing before? And the magic is not that you've got the answer, but that on the journey, you will meet someone, that you'll find out a different way, that you'll get told about this thing. Oh, have you tried ChatGPT yet? No, don't know what it is. Well, because 9 months ago, it didn't exist. And now there's someone who's transformed their business, solved a load of problems, and is working at 150% more productivity.
Yeah. Simply
because you're out there having conversations, mixing it up. And it doesn't even matter whether it's networking, CrossFit, joined a band, like
yeah,
a dog,
100%. I think one of the other things as well is that as men, we have the same thought processes time and time again. So let's say loneliness. I'm lonely. Okay, so what can I do? Can't do anything. And then that, or you go, oh well, maybe I'll meet someone online. I'll go to a networking, virtual networking event. So you do that, and it doesn't really work. And so you're just stuck between these two things, between one, it doesn't work, and two, networking, even though it doesn't work. And so you just keep chipping away at it, like the cheese guy, right? Like the with cheese, and it's not working. And I think we get stuck in this little repeat cycle, a hamster wheel. And actually, the way to solve that is just to go and have a chat with somebody about that specific problem, like we're doing now. Because again, once you're on that journey, stuff will pop up that you've never thought about. So like the conversation yesterday, because one of the guys was feeling lonely, and I'm like, we'll just go do CrossFit. You could go to any city on the planet, right? Go to a CrossFit, instant family, high-fiving each other, sweating and dying together, instant. And you're like, and then you organise, fancy beer later? Yeah, like instant. It's weird. But because they've never had that conversation, it's like, oh, and he travels a lot, right? So it's like, oh, I didn't know that. That's a good idea. It's not a good idea. It's just you've not thought of it yet. It's not this most amazing out of the world thing that you've invented. It's just simple stuff. But we're not very good at doing the simple stuff because we're having the same thought patterns again and again and again. And so we need someone external, like yourself or whoever, right? And I'm sure you find out with your clients when you bring a client on board for having the same thoughts.
It's awful. It's debilitating, going round and round in circles. How am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix it? How am I going to fix this? And there's no break in the chain when it's just that day-to-day cycle of looking at everybody else around you, wondering how you're going to fix the problem. You've got to stop and take stock with you.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's not more common language, common conversation in the world that start with yourself. It's almost like it's selfish. It's almost like, oh well, I could look after everyone else first. So what kind of a person am I if I don't look after all them first? But in times gone by, that had to be the case. They had to go out to hunt. They had to go out to work. They had to look. They had to be doing what they did, and then they came back, and everything they were expecting it to be given to them. So of course, as we said before, things have changed in that regard. When you're not, when your role was that clear, there wasn't any doubt about, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
So now we have to create it. You know, one of the things on the fire code in terms of the tracker is community. And people, nearly every person that starts working, they score themselves really low there. And it's like, I haven't got time for that. What would be the point? What's the value? It doesn't mean you've got to go and start a charity, but there's a level to which, how many of your neighbors do you say hello to, or how many of your neighbors do you know? Is there an old guy that you look out for? My next door neighbour's bonkers. He's 91 years old. He's so lonely, and bless him. I've tried to take him to, literally this whole conversation today is my experience with him. Take him to a coffee morning. He doesn't like it. Take him somewhere else. Doesn't like it. And he's 91. He says, I just want to die. And I'm like, dude, you're the fittest 91-year-old I've ever met. you ain't going nowhere. So you've got to make you've got to make a change there and do something different, step up in a new way, because he's so out of the habit of doing all this stuff that he can't actually face doing it. And that's quite extreme because he's 91 years old. But have you frozen, Dan? Have you frozen? I think you have frozen, yeah. I'm going to carry on talking. So community is just giving back a bit. But people, because they haven't looked at it, they're not aware of what they are actually doing or not doing. So if you're helping out your kids' football team, if you're volunteering at a school sports day or something like that, where you're even just helping clear up afterwards, if you're chatting to your neighbour and taking him for a coffee, we're so detuned from these important criteria of what makes a good life, what makes a successful life, but not what makes a fulfilled life. It's doing these things. And a conversation like we're having today, and like I hope we're going to have over the weeks that we carry on doing this, is making people aware of what they're either not doing or that they're doing, but they're not giving any credit or credence to.
Yeah.
And that's one of the magic things about tracking stuff, tracking your results, tracking what you're focused on in life.
Yeah.
You realize, oh, okay, I did do that 3 times this week. Or he said, try not to drink so much, because I didn't realize I was drinking nearly a bottle of wine a day, like, which sounds bonkers. But when you get home, have a large glass, sit down and have dinner, have another glass and a half, and you think, well, I might as well have finish it off because it's before I go to bed. This guy was drinking nearly a bottle of wine a night. And so just by tracking it, we became aware of it. And so we replaced it with, right, go out and buy a load of sparkling water. So to make it more of his default is choose sparkling water, choose something different. And so many of us have to make that choice. So many of us have to make the choice of, I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize it might be causing that. And I didn't think about what I could do different.
Yeah.
And it's magic when it happens.
We seem to be having a few problems on, I don't know if it's coming out your end, but on the Wi-Fi, we've dropped a couple of times there.
I've carried on talking in the anticipation it wasn't me, and that if someone was either watching or listening, there wouldn't be a break in the conversation. So.
Well, we're still live anyway, so hopefully it'll get recorded.
I was watching
the podcast.
Tick by. I was thinking, okay, Dad's doing frozen this.
What's interesting is, the guy with the coffee, is that a lot of people would put such little value on just going out for a coffee. And it's like, well, why is that less valuable than sitting on a beach and watching a sunset? They both actually have value. One is with another person, one might be with just you and your dog, right? And it could be whichever way, but both of us have value. And I think that we have this expectation because of social media that we should be scuba diving and cliff jumping and
I'm just going to search up a book. Carry on talking.
Yeah, and I think that actually has a negative effect for most people, because we're looking at other people's lives and literally we're looking at highlights. So me being in Bali, swimming in the pool, which was an infinity pool, looks amazing. And don't get me wrong, it was. But I only did it once in the whole 7 days that I was there. And that's a highlight of Dan's life. That was definitely a highlight of November. I'm thinking, what else was interesting in November did I do? Kind of struggling. I'm sure we did do things, but it's like, that's a highlight. And just going for coffee. We've got a beachfront cafe. I go for coffee and I go for cheesecake every Friday morning usually now. And it's like, that's a massive highlight for me. And it's a wonderful, and I really, really appreciate going for those little things. And anyone could go buy a cheesecake and have a coffee. Anybody. There's nothing special about that, but that's not the point. The point is, for me, that's just what I needed.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know why we deny ourselves these things.
No,
fun.
Peak Performance, Brad Stolberg, Steve Magnus, right? They interviewed loads of high performance people in business and sport and everything. And then they blend the book with stats and info from it. And going outside, right? Going outside and observing nature, walking in the park, right? It was proven to enhance your mood by like whatever percentage it was.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is they put in the middle a group of people who didn't go outside but watched videos during lunch of outdoor scenery. And then obviously the third group was the people who didn't do it at all. The people that were watching the videos of beautiful outdoor scenery were getting almost as much uptick in performance as the people that were actually going and doing the walk. So, I call it, it's one of my trackers for the week. It's on the High Value Man lifestyle tracker, is reward and make time for yourself.
Yeah.
So at the end of all these things that they've got to do, keep fit, drink water, go to bed, go on a date night, sex with a partner, look after your kids, like have fun with your friends. It says at the bottom, did you reward and make time for yourself?
Yeah.
So grabbing that coffee and jumping in the car.
Yeah.
If you haven't, now sometimes that might be necessary, right? But if you haven't got 5 minutes to sit down and just actually say, there's something about enjoying this coffee that's going to give me the opportunity to calm, and something productive is going to come of that. What is going to pop into my head, or something productive is going to come from that. To some people, this will sound a bit woo-woo, right? But if I make it literal, a Formula One car has to pit stop. And then when the race is over, they don't just stick it in the garage and get it out the week after. They test it all, do the numbers, look at what worked, what didn't work, so that when the next race comes around, they're ready to go. We are that machine. Like, as human beings, men and women, we have to make time for ourselves to let this wonderful thing that's sat between our ears go off and do its magic.
Yeah, 100%. So Bali for me was very good, interesting, because I've first personal development training I've had since before the pandemic. So it's 3 or 4 years at least, longer, probably 5 years. And I always see myself as being the Formula One car. And then these events for me are the top ups, the servicing, the good quality fuel going in. And when I don't have them over a period of time, I can feel the car, i.e. me, chugging a little bit, losing purpose, not being as efficient. And then, so we go to Bali, we come back, landed back on the 12th or whatever it was. And it's about 18 days ago or so. Our revenues have doubled since getting back from Bali for this month. Our revenues have doubled. And it's like, someone has made a comment, oh, he's working apparently. And it's like, you know, it's like I was, and then you come back and then the revenues double. And it's like, where should I go in January? You know, because we need those regular top ups. And that takes us all the way back to the start of the conversation of people going, well, I don't deserve these regular top ups. Of course you bloody well do. Go see a live band. I was going to say Oasis, but go see No Oasis, the live cover band. There's a concert in summer in the UK, and it's just full of copy bands. And that looks awesome. Imagine going there and seeing Oasis and, I don't know, the Stones and whoever else, all at the same thing. It looks amazing. And it's like, oh, no, I've got work to do. I don't deserve it because I've not hit revenue targets. And actually, my income is less than my outgoing, so I can't. And it's like, but actually, that may be true, but that's because you haven't allowed yourself to expand, and you're just stuck in this same little box doing the same things over and over and over again that you've done for the last 5 years, which is why you've actually not moved forward. You've got to expand and be wild and be crazy and get yourself out there and be, we spoke earlier today, didn't we, about you being more you. Like, the world needs more Dan. My wife would go, oh my God, that's the last thing we need. But the world needs more Dan. And I go live every day and we post a ton of videos every day. And the world is getting more Dan, whether they like it or not. Because I stopped caring whether they want it or not, because it's irrelevant. The people who do want it, they're the ones who are going to watch. And we're getting an increase in viewers. We're getting an increase in revenue. So clearly people want more Dan. And the world needs more Jonnie. Be more Jonnie. And if people watching and listening to this, they want more you, whatever that is, whatever shape or form you think you are. We've all got our own unique talents and gifts and that we can give to people. The world needs more of that. We shouldn't be fitting in the same little box that we've fit in for the last 5 years, because where's it got you? Shit, that's where it's got you. So you need to expand outwards, I think. Absolutely.
Success without the true riches isn't really success. You know, if you get to 1 million and sell get to whatever turnover and sell the company for 7 million, and all of a sudden you don't know your kids and your wife's gone, and actually your friends, the only time you've seen them in the last few years is when you paid for the night, and you know you haven't called them. There has to be a part of this where you say, I'm gonna win, but I'm having it all. I'm absolutely having it all.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we've gone for a good hour almost there. So I think we'll call it there, because we've got absolutely tons of content there.
Looking like we're losing Dan again. We never want to go more than an hour. You know, if we go more than an hour, we're gonna bore you, right? Or we're not going to leave you wanting more. So next time. So if you have enjoyed the Mindset and Hustle show today, then be sure to share it with other people in your life. If you're watching on YouTube, then hit the subscribe. Facebook, give us a bunch of likes. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast, then leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify, because we definitely want to have you back here next week. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this with you, Dan. It looks like he's squinting. I can't actually end the show, but what I can say is, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
And we're back.
I just wrapped up for you, Dan. All there is for you. Goodbye. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Speak to you next time.
Cheers. Cheers. Bye.